Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Friday. TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got a great show for you guys today. Big news day again today. Interesting stuff, fun stuff, and of course, disaster as the country continues to fall apart. So, we've got all those stories and more. We got defense contractors making money off caging children. That's horrible. That's horrifying. We'll talk about that. Daily Beast's got a great story on that. Hey man, look, when it comes to politics and politicians and stuff, the Daily Beast is like establishment as it comes. But they do actually do some good stories, and this is a great example of that. So I can't wait to present that story. You're going to be infuriated as I was reading it, knowing that there are people actually profiting off children. But first, of course, we've got Manafort. That's the story that we're going to lead off today with. Then, of course, we've got more takeaways from the meeting with Trump and Kim Jong-un. How much Donald Trump loved how North Korea is run. That's an interesting couple of stories on that. A little bit of fun. Then, of course, we'll talk about the press briefing yesterday when it came to Sarah Huckabee Sanders and the biblical justification for caging children. Yeah, that's an interesting one. We also have, of course, Betsy DeVos back in the news, at least the education department. And then we've got the U.S. wanting to leave the Human Rights Council. Yeah. So, there's that. All right, everybody. Here's what we're going to do. Before we dive into the show, into the stories, I want to remind everybody, please give us a like and a share. If you want to leave a comment or suggest a story or anything like that, you can do so using our super chat. That goes to help the show. I know a lot of you guys have been using it, and it really does help us out, especially since YouTube is being a dick. So that's what we have there. Thank you for that. By the way, there's another way to support us. That's patreon.com/TYTNation. And of course, simple ways to also support the show is just liking and sharing our content across the different platforms. And of course, that is a huge help. So anyway, with that said, let's dive into the first story. Let's talk about Mr. Manafort. What's going on with Paul? Okay. All right. So we have some breaking news about Paul Manafort. That's Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, who is in a little bit of legal trouble. He will be now awaiting his trial on things like money laundering and being a foreign lobbyist, of course, without telling anybody about it, which is a no-no. He will now be awaiting this trial from jail. A U.S. District Court judge has revoked Paul Manafort's bail, his house arrest, and so he has been remanded into custody. CNN reported that U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson gave that order to revoke bail after Mueller had found out that Manafort had been trying to tamper with the witnesses in his own case. Now, witness tampering, also bad. So, of course, Berman Jackson said, well, we can't have you out on house arrest if you're just going to go and do this. In fact, she said, quote, the harm in this case is harm to the administration of justice and harm to the integrity of the court's system. And of course, again, if you leave Manafort, who's already considered so much of a flight risk that they had to take all his passports and everything and put him at a $10 million bail, look, they're worried about him because he does stuff like this. Now, of course, Berman Jackson also said of his attempts to go and used different means to contact different contacts in Europe to try to shape their narrative. She said, "This is not middle school. I can't take a cell phone. I thought about this long and hard. Mr. Manafort, I have no appetite for this." So basically, she says, "Look, I can't do this. I can't just leave you to go and try to mess up your case or the prosecution's case against you. I got to put you in jail." Well, she might not have an appetite for this, but I know I do. I can't get enough of it. Lock him up. Lock him up. In fact, that's what people were chanting as soon as he went into the district court. It was awesome. But look, he clearly attempted to obstruct justice. I mean, look, again, even the judge, as I just mentioned, emphasized how she could not make enough rulings to keep him from speaking improperly with the witnesses that are against him. I mean, look, he used multiple text message apps, and he even tried to call a potential witness on an Italian cell phone. So, look, man, he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. Yes, he's trying to obstruct justice. Why? It's because I think he's guilty. He's guilty. He's so incredibly guilty. Look, prosecutors, and I agree with this, said that he carried out a sustained campaign of over 5 weeks using different phones and apps to try to mold testimony of witnesses. This is why no one trusts him. This is why even house arrest, right, is not good enough for him. Because while he was in house arrest, he attempted to shape the defense through, of course, incredibly shady means. And witness tampering is now just one of the 7 different criminal charges that are being filed against him. Now, Manafort, he is toast. He is done. You do not attempt to tamper with witnesses if you are innocent. Now, that said, I believe this is a federal case against him. And there is a difference. For example, you can't really get a pardon if you're in a state case, a presidential pardon, if from a state case, but you can from a federal case. So if this is a federal case against Paul Manafort, which I believe it is, then you could get a pardon. Now, will that happen? Well, I don't necessarily know. It definitely is a possibility. Donald Trump, however, has been incredibly distant from Paul Manafort for quite some time, tweeting things like, "Oh, Paul Manafort, I hardly knew the guy. He was just a coffee boy." I know he was saying that of Papadopoulos, but it's the same thing. It's the same MO. Whenever there's somebody who's in a little bit of legal trouble that could hurt Donald Trump, he's like, "Oh, no, I hardly knew the guy. There's nothing. There's no collusion, nothing. Don't worry about it. It's come on. I talked to him once, and I barely remember it. No, he was your campaign chairman. More than just a little bit of a coffee boy." But anyway, look, that could be, and I was thinking about it earlier, it could be that might be a little bit of a front. I mean, look, if Manafort has damaging information on Trump, and that's what they're trying to do here. They're bringing charges against Manafort so that he will flip on Donald Trump and provide evidence. The evidence, of course, that would, or I should say evidence of wrongdoing on Donald Trump's part, whether it has to do with collusion or whatever. That's what they're trying to do, and Paul Manafort has, of course, heavily resisted. But it appears his resistance might be coming to an end due to him being put in jail. That said, a Trump pardon he might be holding on for. So, but look, to get back to my original point, could this distancing of President Trump to Manafort be a little bit of a front so that when he does give him a pardon, he says, "Well, I just think that he's got nothing to do with the campaign. I hardly knew him, but he seems to be being treated very unfairly by Robert Mueller. And so I just had to come in because I don't think he did anything wrong." That is a possibility. Look, as with everything in this case, we're going to have to see what plays out. But at least for now, we can say this. We locked him up. Locked him up. And it feels good. Okay. Fun news. All right. So, let's move on here. Let's talk about authoritarianism. All right. Now, as if it wasn't clear enough that President Trump would love nothing more than to be the dictator of the United States, we now have some video of a surprise interview from Fox and Friends in which President Trump told Steve Doocy that he would love to see the same kind of reverence from quote-unquote his people that the dictator of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, gets from his own people. In fact, we've got that video. Let's take a look.
I mean,
they talked about that yesterday.
I would have him. Yeah, I think it's something that could happen. Yeah. Hey, he's the head of a country, and I mean, he is the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different.
Right.
He speaks, and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same.
Well,
he's so strong. He's so strong. I love how strong Kim Jong-un is. And he's so strong that when he gets up and he talks, everybody sits up and pays attention. Well, that's because if they don't, they get murdered. Again, Kim Jong-un is running an oppressive dictatorial regime where you are forced to listen. And if you're not, again, you're either executed or you're thrown into a work camp where you likely die. So, yeah, okay. But anyway, to Trump, Trump's an idiot, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt of being really, really dumb. But here's the thing about him. He wants to be beloved by the people. We know that. See, he wants to be beloved while he runs a scam on them in order to get richer. And that's what the entire Trump presidency is really all about, is I want to run a scam so I can make some money so I can pay back whoever I own, or whoever I owe. Maybe, Russians, if I owe the Russians some money, or if I owe the banks some money or whatever, and that I can't just go bankrupt for the 80th time. I would just want to do a scam. Oh, shit, it looks like I won the presidency. What do I do now? Oh, it turns out I really, really like the attention. I really like the adulation. I love the masses that are saying Trump, Trump, Trump. Hey, you know what? I don't blame. I guess some part of me doesn't blame him, because that kind of thing it would be intoxicating. But to somebody who's an egotistical narcissist like the president, well, that thing can lead to some, I guess, lead down some bad roads. But look, anyway, he says, wow, I wish my people would do that, just like Kim Jong-un. Well, as I said before, if anybody criticizes Kim Jong-un or the government of North Korea, well, then they go to forced labor camps, or they're murdered, their family's murdered, or they just disappear. I'm really hoping that Donald Trump doesn't actually know that. Which brings me to this interesting backpedal later on. Asked about his comment on Kim Jong-un and his people standing for him, President Trump said he was just kidding. Oh no, I was kidding. No, I don't actually want people to stand up like, they're forced to for Kim Jong-un. No. You just don't understand my sarcasm. And by the way, when asked by a CNN reporter, he then followed it up by saying, "You're the worst. Fake news, CNN. Here you go, asking me a question and don't understand sarcasm." Well, let me show you a different angle of the same video, and I want you guys to tell me whether or not you believe that it is sarcasm.
Could happen. I mean,
they talked about that yesterday.
I would have him. Yeah, I think it's something that could happen. Yeah. Hey, he's the head of a country, and I mean, he is the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different.
Right.
He speaks, and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same.
Doesn't sound like sarcasm to me. No, what happened is probably later on, someone was like, "You can't say that. Dude, you cannot say that. That is a dictatorial regime. They are forced to do that." Oh, shit. Oh, God. Oh, no, I can't. Backpedal. Well, at least he was smart enough to come back and say, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Sarcasm. It was just sarcasm. It's a joke. You guys can't tell sarcasm? It's fake news. Sad. Look, our president is an ignorant man-child. We know that. But he's a man-child with fascist tendencies, authoritarian tendencies, dictatorial tendencies. Those two things are not a good combination. Just saying. We've got more. All right. President Trump can't seem to stop praising the way Kim Jong-un runs North Korea. Now, during his trip to Singapore, he became very envious of the way that the press talks about the dictator. Now, what's interesting, of course, is that the press is forced to talk about the dictator in praising glowing terms, because if they don't, they're quickly taken and murdered or shoved into a work camp. See, that's kind of how it works there, since they're a dictatorial regime with no freedom of the press. So yes, of course, if you're a member of the so-called news, you have to get up there and say, Kim Jong-un is the greatest, he's the best, he bowls a 300, he doesn't actually poop at all. Yes, I think those are real things that they've said. And by the way, wait, if Kim Jong-un doesn't poop, then why does he carry around, and this is something that I've seen in stories as well, he carries around his own toilet. That's weird. But anyway, you have to go and you have to say that kind of stuff, or else you get murdered, or your family gets murdered. So again, it's really funny that he's like, oh man, I just love how the news is always praising you. I wish the news was praising me. But anyway, now the Washington Post has an anecdote of this, and this is citing two people familiar with the president and his remarks. He said that Trump joked after watching North Korean state-run television that not even Fox News praises him as much as the female anchor in North Korea praised Kim. Now, that North Korean anchor is very well known as basically the propaganda person that you go to. So, yeah, he said, or at least joked, that same anchor should maybe get a job in U.S. media. I mean, look, hey, Fox News might be hiring. Maybe, I mean, look, they are, after all, pro-Trump propaganda, and if, you know, Donald Trump is good with Kim Jong-un, then, well, it looks like she would have a pretty good career here on, of course, Fox News state television. Look, to be fair about Fox News, North Korean propaganda takes it a little bit far, a lot further than Fox News, I think, but joking or not, we know that Donald Trump hates the press. Because, well, it's because the press says mean things about him, which often happen to be true. So I think that if President Trump had the ability to lock up the press, I think he might take it. Well, how dare you say those mean things about me? Fake news CNN, fake news New York Times, fake news Washington Post. That's it, gone. You're gone. I have the power to lock you up. I'm going to lock you up. Do you think for a second that he wouldn't take advantage of that power? Of course he would. He is a wannabe authoritarian. So yes, he would probably do that, but he does not. Thankfully, because we do have a Constitution, we do have the First Amendment, we do actually have some freedom of the press, thank goodness, and some checks and balances. But don't think that Trump hasn't thought about it. Of course he has. Look, some examples of that, and I know you think I might be going a little bit too far with this, but no, he is regularly, routinely called the free press the enemy. Not just his enemy, not just his opponent. Like, I could say that, well, I have an adversarial relationship with the press, and I don't think that they're covering me fairly. That's fine. If you're a president, you can make that argument, and I think in some cases you would be right. But no, he goes further. He says the press is the enemy of America. But wait, They're not the enemy of America. They're actually supposed to stand up for America and do the news and actually give Americans facts and knowledge and tell people what's actually going on. That's the role of the press. But for Trump says, no, you don't understand. I'm the president. I am America. I am America. And so if you're the enemy of me, then you're the enemy of America. But if you're a friend to me, like Fox News is, well, then you're good for America and you're not fake news. Look, he's also threatened to remove credentials from people like Jim Acosta, who constantly goes and challenges the official government narrative, which is great. I really do wish that the press were more emboldened during the Obama administration when they were obviously doing things that were not great. For example, continuing the drone strikes and all that stuff. So in the wars, but nonetheless, look, the press is important, and Donald Trump is more than willing to eliminate the press because it hurts his feelings. And that's probably the saddest thing. Again, any news that isn't friendly to him is fake news. I mean, look, the way that he talks about the press should scare everyone. And if you want to have, and I have plenty of disagreements with the mainstream corporate media, but the one thing I will never advocate for is eliminating their points of view. Even Fox News has a point of view that should be represented, or you should have the freedom to represent that point of view, even if it is mostly made up. That's what having a freedom of the press is actually about, hearing all these different perspectives. So I always get worried about attacks on the free press because we all have different perspectives. I have a different perspective than CNN and certainly Fox News. And they have different perspectives from me and everyone else. But we're all, thanks to the Constitution, thanks to the First Amendment, we're able to get those perspectives out. It really scares me when there's an attack on the whole idea of a free press, whether it be from a Democrat, which thankfully they have not, or Donald Trump, or a Republican, who constantly assails the free press. Not because they want it to be better, which is why I criticize CNN and MSNBC, etc. I actually want them to be better. That's not what they want to do. That's not the goal of a lot of these pro-Trump Republicans and Donald Trump himself. Their goal is to destroy the media so they can have propaganda just like in North Korea. If you're not afraid about this, if you're not scared of this, you should be. And by the way, just because I think that all different points of view should be represented does not make them equal. So I just want to make sure to address that as well. Okay. All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We've got the Sarah Huckabee Sanders story. That's really good. So stay right here. We'll be right back after the break. Please, if you have any super chats, any suggestions or any stories or any comments on the stories that we've done so far or that we plan on doing, please send that because that, of course, helps the show and it makes it easier to find those comments as well. All right, so we'll do that. Quick break. We'll be right back. Stay right here. Round the Nation. Welcome back to the show. TYT Nation here, around the nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. So, I don't have any super chats to read, but that's okay. I know there is some argument about, no, I want the press to be regulated by the government. Well, I don't agree with that because, look, the whole idea of a free press is to challenge the government. So if you're being regulated and all that stuff by the government, it makes it more difficult to challenge the government. That's why we have to have an independent media. Independent of government, independent of corporate influence. We need to have a real independent media that actually covers things. Because, look, if you're not challenging government power, then what are you doing? You're basically doing government stenography. And I don't agree with that. But, I do have a super chat. I got a question here from Coffee Crow. Did I watch E3? I did not watch E3. I was busy getting ready for my sister's funeral. So I didn't get a chance to do that, but there was a couple things I actually did notice. It was Fallout 76. That was interesting. Not sure if I like the online-only functions or features of that. We'll see. Assassin's Creed, what is it? I forget the name of the new Assassin's Creed that they put out. And Division 2. So, Division 2 looks interesting, like I said before. Ubisoft had a really good reveal at E3, but Squaresoft I was looking forward to, but I was not happy about that either, because they really didn't do a whole lot. I was hoping, hey, maybe we can get some Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff. That would be awesome. But no, we didn't really see anything of that. Maybe an expansion for Final Fantasy XIV. That would have been nice. But no, unfortunately, that was a bust. But that's all I've really seen about E3. So again, I was pretty busy. But anyway, thank you, Coffee Crow. I should look into, what was it? Doom Eternal and Halo Infinite. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check those out and see, because I have the Doom, like the newest Doom, but I want to try it in VR, but I can't afford one of those VR systems. So, that would be so good to see. But anyway, thank you, Coffee Crow. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate your question. So thank you for both. All right. So let's get into more stories. Let's go to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Let's see. Let me just real quick. Now, several reporters yesterday challenged Sarah Huckabee Sanders over some recent statements about the policy of separating families at the border. So, of course, right now, under President Trump, the United States has been doing a policy of separating immigrant families at the border and arresting the parents and sending the kids off to God knows where. Now, obviously, that caused a lot of backlash from, of course, a lot of people and the press as well. Now, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, he tried to justify this policy by stating the Bible. In fact, let me give you a quote on this. He said, quote, "Illegal entry into the United States is a crime, as it should be. Persons who violate the law of our nation are subject to prosecution." Now, look, this is not something that we have been doing for very long. Yes, it was a crime under the books, but under President Obama, it wasn't actually enforced. So we weren't really splitting up families the way that they've been doing now. Nonetheless, now we are, because Trump decided, well, we're going to go and enforce the law, right? And of course, he says, well, I will cite to you the Apostle Paul and its clear and wise command in Romans 13. To obey the laws of the government because God has ordained them for the purpose of order. So that is their justification. Now, that's funny. They say, oh, you have to follow the law. You have to follow the law. I would note that there are several cases of the Trump administration actually not following the law themselves. The Emoluments Clause, for example, it might be a good example of that. But there's more trying to pass an unconstitutional Muslim ban. That's another thing where it isn't exactly following the law. But anyway, Sanders, like I said, was asked about this at this press briefing. Here's what she said.
The Attorney General earlier today said that somehow there's a justification for this in the Bible. Where does it say in the Bible that it's moral to take children away from their mothers?
I'm not aware of the Attorney General's comments or what he would be referencing. I can say that it is very biblical to enforce the law. That is actually repeated a number of times throughout the Bible. However, this hold on, Jim, if you'll let me finish. Again, I'm not going to comment on the attorney's specific comments that I haven't seen.
It's in the Bible to
That's
follow
not
the
what
law.
I said, and I know it's hard for you to understand. Even short sentences, I guess, and please don't take my words out of context, but the separation of illegal alien families is the product of the same legal loopholes that Democrats refuse to close, and these laws are the same that have been on the books for over a decade, and the president is simply enforcing them.
Policy to take children away from their parents. Can
It's
you
a
imagine
moral
the
policy
horror that
to
these children
follow
must
and
be going
enforce the
through
law.
when they come across the border,
Jim.
they're with their parents, and then suddenly they're pulled away from their parents? Why is the government doing this?
Because it's the law, and that's what the law states. And the law.
You guys don't have to do that.
You're right, it doesn't have to be the law, and the president has actually called on Democrats in Congress to fix those loopholes. The Democrats have failed to come to the table, failed to help this president close these loopholes and fix this problem. We don't want this to be a problem. The president has tried to address it a number of occasions. We've laid out a proposal, and Democrats simply refuse to do their job and fix the problem.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there. Okay. For one, I guess we'll start at the top. Well, I wasn't aware of Sessions' statement. You're not aware of what the Attorney General of the United States has actually said? Oh, that's interesting. That's really funny. But then goes on to defend it by saying, well, it is biblical to enforce the law. It's actually repeated a number of times throughout the Bible. Well, so glad that the Bible is a founding document that is so relevant to our government today. Oh, it's not? Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's not, because we're not, we're not a theocracy. We're a representative republic. Just thought that you should know that. And look, I've got Bible quotes later, so don't think that I'm off that angle. But then there goes the cheap shot, right? To Jim Acosta. She said, I know it's hard for you to understand even short sentences. And don't take me out of context. Nobody's taking you out of context. They're saying, hey, is it moral, because you're making a biblical case, and the Bible is supposed to be the moral document of separating families. Is there a moral case to separate families at the border? And she cannot answer that question because there is no good answer to that question. Yes, it is immoral to separate families. But this is a change, this is a policy change that was made by the Trump administration. And she's doing it in trying to say, well, look, it's more moral to obey the law. It doesn't matter what the law is. And in fact, the law's only there because the Democrats won't do it. No. You made the choice to enforce that and to turn what was a civilian infraction to a criminal infraction, right? You turned that into a crime in which you had to separate families at the border. That's what the Trump administration had done. They didn't have to, but they did. And finally, there's the hypocrisy of the Democrats, of saying that this is the Democrats' fault, right? No, here's the thing. NBC News reported earlier today that Trump is refusing to sign. He has signaled that I will not sign bipartisan legislation that will end this practice. Completely undercutting Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She says, well, it's the Democrats didn't stand up. They're not doing their job. But the Democrats got together with the Republicans and said, okay, we want to end this practice. They came up with bipartisan legislation, and Trump says, I'm not going to sign it. Who's not doing their job? Trump, do your fucking job. I love the projection here, right? But anyway, look. Oh, this is the law. It's the law. We got to follow the law. It's moral, right? No. What if the law isn't moral? Which in this case, it certainly is not. Then following that immoral law would also be immoral, right? I mean, we have examples. Slavery was law. Segregation was the law. Taking multiple wives, that was in the Bible. That was biblical law, right? So, doesn't mean these things are moral. No, but again, the point is moot, right? Because it's not actually the law. It's not actually policy. CBS News' Paula Reed later pointed that out in that exchange. But I want to go to another video here. And this is after, actually, Paula Reed. And I suggest that you watch her segment as well, where she was saying, but this is not actually the law. This is a policy change. Or it's not actually policy. It's just something that you guys just decided to do. But the video that I want to get to here is where a reporter had attempted to appeal to Sarah's empathy. Well, let's see how well that worked out. Watch.
Come on, Sarah, you're a parent. Don't you have any empathy for what these people are going through? They have less than you do.
Guys,
Sarah, come on,
settle down.
Seriously.
I'm trying to be serious, but I'm not going to have you yell out of turn. Jill, please
it's
call.
It's a law, and these people have nothing.
Hey, Ryan, I know you want to get some more TV time, but that's not what this is about. If I want to recognize you, go ahead, Jill.
Honestly, answer the question. It's a serious question. These people have nothing. They come to the border with nothing, and you throw children in cages. You're a parent. You're a parent of young children. Don't you have any empathy for what they go through?
Jill, go ahead.
Jill, go ahead. I'm not going to answer that. That's because I don't have empathy. That's Brian Karam, by the way. And I want to give him credit for just getting fed up enough to say something and say, look, man, don't you have any sort of empathy for these people? Don't you? At all? No, I don't. He got his answer. Look, they don't see these children as children. They don't see them as human beings. Then, of course, they have the nerve to deflect and say that it's the Democrats. It's the Democrats' fault. When we all damn well know that if a piece of legislation came to the floor, which it has, by the way, and Trump is refusing to sign it, but if anything else comes to the floor, no matter how draconian it is, right? And they're going to make it draconian. They're going to make it to a point where the Democrats will not want to sign it because of how much it will punish immigrants, legal immigrants. Then they'll turn around and they'll blame the Democrats for it not passing. This is nothing more than the White House playing politics with children's lives. It's never about policy. It's all about politics. It's all about deflection because they want to appease their racist base. And again, their justification, they want to use the Bible. Well, I've got some Bible verses for her, right? Yes, following the law, that is in there. Oh, you got to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, right? That's more like pay your taxes, which Donald Trump, maybe you should do that. But no, there's actually a lot of stuff about immigration in the Bible as well. For example, Exodus says, you shall not wrong or oppress an immigrant. That's fairly clear. They're not stuttering in this one. What about this one from Leviticus? Is this one of their favorite books, right? It's where the laws where you're not supposed to be gay and allow all this great discrimination against gay people. Leviticus, they love that book, right? So what did they say about immigrants? The immigrant who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. Deuteronomy says, cursed be anyone who deprives the immigrant of justice. And finally, Jeremiah, and this isn't the only mentions of immigrants, it's all over the Bible. That's because in the Old Testament, the Jews were immigrants. They emigrated from Egypt to the Holy Land. You should probably know that. Jeremiah says, do no wrong or violence to the immigrant. Well, do you think we're doing wrong to the immigrants? I would guess so. But see, they don't care. They adopted this policy with the whole purpose of trying to deter people from coming here. And it's because they don't want them here. They don't want them here because they're racist. They don't see these people as human beings. They see them as an invasion, as an enemy force. This is why they won't do anything for these children. That's why they break up their families. That's why they're putting all these anti-immigrant, and not just undocumented immigrants. Trump said, we're going to go after the undocumented immigrants. We're going to go after the bad hombres. But story after story after story, they're going after people who haven't broken any laws or haven't broken any or haven't done any violence, non-violent people who are just here. ICE is deporting them anyway. And in some cases, as soon as they go back, they're killed by gang violence, the very thing that they came here to try to avoid. Now they're going after legal immigrants. Now they're going after naturalized citizens. They don't want them here. They don't want them here because they're racist. It's not controversial. It's fact. Okay. I think I'm pretty clear on that one. Moving on. There is a group of people who do want these kids here, and you're about to see that. Okay. Nope, that's the same one. All right. Now, we've been talking a lot about the kids that are getting separated from their parents at the border. Now, as if that's not bad enough, the cases of Border Patrol separating these families and throwing the adults in jail and charging them with criminal offenses and sending the kids God knows where, tent cities or abandoned Walmarts and, cages even. As if that's not bad enough, it's about to actually get worse. Because it appears that there are some companies that are more than happy and willing to exploit these children for profit. And I'm not talking about the kind of exploitation that is illegal. No, this is completely legal. Now, the Daily Beast here with a great article from Betsy Woodruff and Spencer Ackerman, working both together on it. They write, they reveal that defense contractors are now profiting off of this new policy from the Trump administration. Now, these contractors, they write, have advertised a new flurry of jobs. Oh, look, they're creating jobs. So the immigrants actually are creating jobs. That's interesting. No, they've posted these new jobs in recent weeks to support the infrastructure surrounding undocumented children whom the Trump administration has taken from their families. One of them, Virginia-based MVM Incorporated, seeks a compliance coordinator to help in San Antonio with the, quote, rapid deployment of an emergency influx shelter for unaccompanied children. Now, the coordinator would ensure the children's shelter met policies and procedures set by the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Refugee Resettlement. MVM posted the job on its website this week. Now, there's another job posting from about 20 days ago, advertises for youth care workers in anticipation of a contract award. And of course, that is good evidence that they appear to believe that their business will begin to grow in this area. Now, MVM is a defense contractor, and yet they're getting into child care. Unfreaking believable. Now, Matthew Culkin, who's an immigration attorney who frequently represents these undocumented children, told the Daily Beast that he is deeply concerned about these contractors' child care work. Well, I am as well. He says, I'm guessing that they're in their mission statement. One of the central components isn't the care of refugee children. It is mind-blowing that these types of industries would even be considered with respect to the care of children. They're not equipped to be able to do it. Would you want your child dropped off in their hands? I know I wouldn't. Well, again, because they are defense contractors, because because that matters. They're used to doing operations that murder people. So, for example, defense contractors like Blackwater or now Z or whatever name they have now, operated in Iraq. And yes, part of their job was killing people, not childcare. No, I wouldn't want anybody's children in their hands. So look, we've talked about, right, the new zero tolerance policy enforced by Jeff Sessions, right? So when somebody crosses a border, like a refugee, and decides to surrender themselves because, hey, look, I'm escaping a horrible existence with, gangs, the government's after me or whatever, I want to apply to be a refugee here in America for refugee status. Well, now when it used to be like, okay, we'll come consider your refugee status. That's fine. Come into America, right? Nowadays, it's, no, we're going to arrest you and we're going to prosecute you. That's the new policy, right? They're arrested, detained, and separated from their families. Now, the adults go to jail, right? And the kids end up in the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Now, right-wingers will say, oh, no. We're doing this because we don't want the kids to go to jail. Well, why are you sending anybody to jail? Why don't they all go to the Office of Refugee Resettlement? Oh, because the adults, well, they brought the kids over the border, so they're criminals. And we're going to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law in order to deter them from coming back, you see. Well, when you're facing death, imprisonment is probably a little bit better, at least in their eyes. But anyway, now, the ORR puts the children in shelters or in foster care, and in some cases, they just completely lose track of them. Now, the contractors, however, their part comes into, it comes in basically after they're put in shelters and foster care. They help ORR with the logistics of caring for these children. Now, these children have been through a lot of stuff. They've been through basically hell. Now, let me explain that. Actually, this gets explained by a child advocate contract in pre-solicitation from ORR. Now, this is a June 1st document that describes the traumatic situations undocumented children separated from their families had survived in their home countries. To sort of give you a primer on what they go through and the reason that they leave their home countries in the first place. Now, many of these children face dire poverty, war, forced military or gang recruitment, human trafficking, domestic violence, abuse, family separation, and government neglect. These include very young children, mostly with minimal education, and after apprehension by DHS and transfer to the ORR, these children then face a complicated legal system here in the United States. So they come from horrific backgrounds and horrific situations, then to just get thrown and separated from your families and thrown into this system that is incredibly complicated. Now, that contract that I read seeks companies that can develop child advocacy programs to serve a minimum of 550 minors in Brownsville, San Antonio, Houston, Chicago, Phoenix, Los Angeles, and the New York and D.C. metro areas. Now, look, I can understand that there's a need to take care of these children, right? And that you would need to hire people and that you would need to contract out companies to take care of these children and like build places to house them and things like that. But a defense contractor, really? I mean, really? This is what we're doing? Look, MVM itself bills itself as having an extensive domain expertise in counter narcotics, criminal and civil investigations, public safety, and national security. Nothing in there about childcare. It is known as a security contractor for U.S. intelligence agencies. It worked with the CIA. But here's the thing. I don't think they care. I think that they want to use defense contractors because on some level, people in the administration that are making these decisions don't see these people as children. They see them as potential threats. And that's the thing, right? So here you have the government saying, well, these kids might be a potential threat. And then you have the defense contractors come in and see these kids as a potential revenue stream. They can't wait to exploit profit from them. Oh, yeah, we'll come in. We'll do this. Yeah, sounds great. We'll do these child care places. We'll set things up. We'll provide infrastructure and all that stuff. You'll get a great deal. Well, what about the children? Are they going to get a great deal? I don't know. Now, if it's not bad enough that we have defense contractors in there, the specific defense contractors also have a spotty record. In 2008, MVM lost a contract with the CIA in Iraq for, as the Wall Street Journal reported, failing to provide enough armed guards. So they're a security defense contractor that's not even good at defense contracting because they want to cut corners. You think they're not going to cut corners with the kids? Of course they are. Now, they also face internal allegations that the guards in Iraq, which worked for both the CIA and the NSA, were procuring and possessing unauthorized weapons and explosives, according to a since-dismissed lawsuit from an Army Special Forces veteran employee who claimed wrongful termination after blowing the whistle. And look, I don't know if that ended up being true, but I wouldn't be surprised considering the things that Blackwater has also done and never got in trouble for. And they ended up having to change their name anyway. That's what these companies do. They get into a little bit of hot water, PR. They change their name, they wait a little bit, and then they come back. Now, most recently, in July of 2017, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission sued the MVM after finding that the firm retaliated against one of its security guards, who happened to be a practicing Muslim. Now, they forced him to shave his beard after he reported a supervisor calling him the N-word. What a great place to take care of children, especially traumatized children. But look, what do you expect from an industry that has also taken part in the bombing of children overseas? Nonetheless, they're set to profit handsomely from another contract that they expect to get. Now, MVM still has contracts with the government, believe it or not. They have a contract with ICE for transporting unaccompanied, undocumented children. They've earned, since September, $43 million doing so. This is bad news. This is bad news. Now, how do we know all this, by the way? All these different things that these contractors have done. Well, it turns out that there's an investigator with the Project on Government Oversight who has a misconduct database. This is Neil Gordon, and he says about this, quote, "It looks right now that the Trump administration's policies regarding immigration is proving to be a relatively lucrative area for private contractors." Well, of course. No kidding. He said, "I'm concerned with these companies' track records. Have they been properly thoroughly vetted to ensure their performance histories are relatively satisfactory? Do they have recent cases of misconduct levied against them? Any sort of pending legal or enforcement matters concerning the issues of misconduct?" Well, look, those are good questions. Those are fair questions. And, of course, we already have some answers to those questions. MVM has those problems. And, of course, their spokesmen are like, no. See, those suits, one was dismissed. And the other, look, no, we're fine. We're perfectly set up for child care to take care of these undocumented, unaccompanied children. Are we, though? But they're not the only defense contractor. There's another one, General Dynamics. Now, General Dynamics happens to be the third largest federal contractor by dollar amount. They've got $15 billion in government contracts. However, in 2017, according to Gordon's database, they have faced $280.3 million in penalties for 23 misconduct cases since 1995. They have been contracting with the Office of Refugee Resettlement since 2010. Well, congratulations. So we have defense contractors in charge of taking care of children that have been through terrible situations. I don't think we're going to make them any better. If anything, would sum up what's wrong with America, allowing the wealthiest to take advantage and basically turn children, the most vulnerable, into a revenue stream. Well, it's this. Okay. What do I have time for? I really don't have time for anything, but I'm going to do one more story regardless. We're going to talk about the education department. Okay. Is our favorite Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. All right. So now Betsy DeVos is engaged in a war on education since she was appointed to the seat that she bought. And, of course, the casualties in this war have been steep. According to an Inside Higher Ed report released on Wednesday, the Education Department has cut more than 550 workers between President Trump's inauguration and April of this year. Now, the department, led by Betsy DeVos, said the 13% reduction in staff came as a result of attrition and voluntary early retirement. Now, look, if your only aim is to destroy the department, don't be surprised if you have voluntary early retirement. Just saying. Now, the irony here is that deregulation, which is the DeVos agenda, requires you to have a lot of staff to be able to complete. Now, civil rights workers, according to Inside Higher Ed, have been part of some of these rollbacks, right? Now, they're doing a lot of rolling back, of course, of these regulations, so they're using civil rights workers to be able to roll these back. Great. Now, another problem here is that the administration is choosing just to not fill these positions. Oh, no, we don't need these positions filled. Don't worry about it. We're here to destroy it anyway. Why are we going to fill the positions? No, we're going to get rid of the people. We're going to get rid of the positions. And we're going to eventually destroy the Department of Education. That's what we've always wanted to do. Now, former department staff members say the Trump administration is purposely choosing not to fill these vacant positions following months of continuous departures. Now, unsurprisingly, here are the two major departments that have had the most staffers leave. This is the Office of Federal Student Aid and the Office for Civil Rights. They have seen the most significant cutbacks since January 2017. Now, since Trump took office, FSA has lost more than 100 employees, 7% of its staff, while the OCR has lost about 70 staffers, or 11% of its total staff. So, oh, look at that. Student loans, which are impacting millions of Americans, and is up to about $1 trillion in debt, and civil rights. Those are two things that the Trump administration does not give a shit about. They don't care. Look, civil rights, that's important because, again, you have people who are disabled, disability rights in schools, and you also have the school-to-prison pipeline, and you have schools that are falling apart in the inner cities. So African Americans are not able to get a quality education. So, nonetheless, these departments are losing people instead of hiring people and instead of actually doing their jobs. But again, they're not going to do that. They're not going to hire more people because this administration is anti-education. They're not going to hire anybody that doesn't have a deregulation agenda. Look, Betsy DeVos, as I said before, her only purpose there is to destroy the Department of Education. One of her goals is to do that, and then when she gets rid of that department, when she gets rid of public schools, there will be religious charter schools that'll be ready to take their places and make a huge, huge profit. That's why this is happening. That's why DeVos is dangerous for education. And that's why, as soon as we get the chance to be able to do so, her and Trump got to go. The Trump administration has to come to an end. We can do so in the election, but only if we get involved. So, let's do it. Let's get rid of them. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. There's one more super chat that I want to read. She says, Karen Sheet says, I'm worried about Reality Winter and everything she is going through. Reality Winter. I'm going to have to look her up. But thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let me do a quick search and see what's going on here. So, Reality Winter. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I will be looking into that tomorrow, and maybe we'll talk about that. Reality Winter. Okay. Okay, it's Reality Winter. Sorry about that. I haven't been obviously catching up with that story, but I will look into that. So thank you for letting me know about that. All right. That's it, guys. Thank you for all that. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for liking and sharing. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you want to do a more steady support of the show, you can always, of course, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation. All right, everybody. We're out of here for the day. Thank you. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow, right here. I'm sorry, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is the weekend. I am so messed up because of everything that happened this week. I got to tell you guys, Monday won't be here. I got a doctor's appointment and I've got meetings. So, no Monday show, but we'll be back on Tuesday. So remember that. So you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you guys on Tuesday, and have an awesome weekend. We'll see you then.